in government. I mean, it's the same reason, you know, the rank and file, well, anybody in the military doesn't get a bonus, because everybody sees who was compensated, because all the information is public record. And just as I said last week, you know, the reason it works in private business is because no one knows who got it, and that's where the element of surprise, the unexpected, non-conditioned rewards gives you the best bang for the buck. The other problem is, I think it's going to work in the exact opposite way. I mean, and I'll ask you all, because you probably worked in large organizations for a longer period than I have, especially since most of yours were not commission-based, but, you know, what is the number one reason people leave their job? Is it money?
Yeah,
I mean, the management, all the management stuff I've read says that, you know, it's rarely money. It's usually a bad working environment, and even when people get the raise, in other words, a company offers somebody, you know, a competitor offers an employee more money, they get a higher offer, they might stay at that company for a while, but ultimately, because the company, you know, counters, ultimately they leave because it's a bad work environment. And what you have in this kind of a situation is you've got people who are unfairly treated. They're going to see who got the reward. And even as the newspaper reported, and I don't remember exactly what the details were, but it looked pretty top-heavy to me. And that is how you ruin an organization, is unfairness, if you want my opinion. And people are going to see that, and they are going to leave in droves because they don't think it's that they've got a fair shake in getting a bonus. So I think before you even go down the path of any incentives, you need to really think about, does this private practice or private enterprise practice really lend itself to government work? I mean, military doesn't give bonuses. There's a reason for that. You know, it's a different environment here, and it's all public knowledge. That's the problem.
Actually, the military does give recruitment bonuses, Larry. I mean,
They
they've
give
been doing that for several years.
Re-enlistment bonuses.
Re-enlistment bonus?
They don't give us
stop-loss bonus?
They don't give
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't, you know, year to year, you don't get performance bonuses.
No, but
Yeah.
your change for advancement's based on that.
Yeah, you know,
And
and actually in that,
Oh.
Well, I mean,
you know,
that's just a salary increase like we have here.
Right, no, but what I'm saying
You
is
get promoted,
there's
you get a higher pay.
Right.
But I don't think a retention bonus is the same as a merit increase.
well, I think that in a military construct, Cheryl would probably be at a bird or 1 star, but she would certainly be able to pick up a star or more stars, whereas here, that's where she is.
Well,
This is the top appointed official in the city. But everybody that's part of the city staff has an opportunity to reach the top of their particular department, but that doesn't mean that they all want to be city administrators, city managers, move on to other organizations. You know, at some point, you know, you don't want to lose somebody that's been here a long time just because they're at the top of their game and their pay grade, if you can hang on to it.
So Larry, let me ask you a question, because,
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of different ways to do this. We can all discuss it, but using your kind of logic, basically then, why do we even have ranges in pay? So for instance, if I'm a meter reader, I make $10 an hour, period. I'm going to make that forever unless I want to get a new job. Or you're going to give me a cost of living increase of 3% every year, which doesn't really incent me to do anything. It doesn't incent me to do one thing or another. From my perspective, when you have pay ranges, and listen, I have differences in opinion whether if you're at the top of your pay range, I'm not a firm believer you should get a merit. However, I do believe that if you're starting out, as long as you're being rewarded within that pay range, and there's some consistency to that, that's where I think it is. If not, then we should just basically give everybody, hey, this is your hourly rate, and other than a 3%, you know, that's it. That's what you get.
You know, I actually, you know, one of the things that Bob Page brought up earlier
Mm-hmm.
might apply really nicely to a merit pool, instead of, you pool it all together, and then everybody, no matter if you're on the low end or
Right.
the high end of the spectrum, you know, if the bucket yields $2,000 per position, then that's what it is for everybody. But we don't have to, I don't think we have to decide that this evening, but I think we have to decide whether or not we want to stick with this merit plan that Steve promoted last year, that the council overwhelmingly agreed with, and I think we've got overwhelming consensus right now.
So, I mean, I guess, are we conceding that we want $230,000 basically left in salaries? Is that what we're saying?
That is a lot of money. I mean, I can't wait for that to be reported on in the newspaper.
Well, we already have the 150
That's-
that's there.
I know, but
It
just.
is the 80, I mean, we
Okay.
already have.
We've already been
We've
talking
already been
about this for
talking about
weeks.
it.
No, I know, but that's a lot of
And what
money.
did we budget last year?
And that's a 50%
Same thing.
increase
Same
over the
thing.
pool that you've already put in place, so. Yeah, 80,000 on top of 150 is over 50%.
It's not any
No,
different than
no.
it was
So,
this last
the
year.
150 was just the cost of living.
I know,
Right.
that's what I mean, I guess I'm still hoping that someone will say the whole merit thing should not be put in there at all.
I don't think you're gonna get that.
And in response to your question about pay scales, and maybe Ryan can tell us about this, but I think it'd be difficult in a public institution where all the salaries are, I mean, I don't know, wouldn't you be opening up yourself for some legal problems if you did pay people differently and didn't have a pay scale, or does it not work that way?
Pay people differently.
Well, in other words, I mean, we have pay scales.
Pay ranges.
Ranges. I mean, is that something that's, required by, or is a good practice to have pay scales to begin with? I mean, why isn't every job negotiated in the government service?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Cheryl or Mary could probably address that. From a legal perspective, you know, I suppose you can go one way or the other, but I think from a personnel perspective and from an HR perspective, they probably have the.
Well, then why do we have pay scales? I mean, or pay ranges, maybe that's a better question. Maybe that's how you get the motivation that you desire, is to not have pay scales. I mean, just because everybody else does it that way in every other city, is that, I mean, why isn't everybody's pay negotiated separately, just like they would do, again, in private enterprise?
Well, not all private enterprises. Our organization, we have 25,000 individuals in our company. We have pay ranges, pay scales, pay grades. And the reason why you have that is because there has to be an expectation from a budgetary perspective in those departments as to how they're going to be able to outlay their funds. If there's one thing I would have changed with the merit process this past year, I would have made it departmental in nature and not just one big pool of money. I would have weighted it based on departments, so that those departments had some certainty as to how much they were going to be able to pay in bonuses or in merit increases.
Well, and this is something we can kind of work out
Yep.
between now and the end of the year because of the.
Well, it's going to have to be
Salary
done,
study,
because
yeah.
I don't want to have a slush fund, as I said before.
Right.
That's not, to me, that's not.
I don't think that's what anybody else wants either, but I think that what we want is to establish that is,
Yeah, but pay grades and pay scales are used all the time in business. I mean, I think that virtually everybody in this dais is involved in it.
Is anybody else interested in re-examining the pay ranges and pay scales besides Mr. Kodovich?
Well, I'm.
Is
I'm
there
not-
anybody else that's interested in doing that? That's, actually, this is a question directed to the rest of the governing body, so, I mean, Tori, is that something that you wanna do?
That's
Are
what
you-
everybody's recommending with the
We're-
salary, a marked
That's
salary.
exactly what that is.
Right.
We're not going to dispense with them.
No, I'm not, I don't wanna say we're getting rid of them, but I feel like they need to be evaluated, yeah.
Right, no, and that's.
And I'm not in favor of that either, I'm just throwing it out as, you know.
Okay.
Thinking outside the box.
Well, I know, I'm trying to answer Christie's question, because I really don't know, and you probably answered it better than anybody else, from a budgetary perspective, That's the reason we have pay scales. And you're
Yeah.
right, there probably are, and, you know,